A lot of contractors have asked about SumoQuote and if it could be integrated into BUMS, and if so, what would it take? So looking at SumoQuote, very cool product, does a lot. Ryan's a great guy. I've spoken to him many times through their development, and I see they're progressively growing and growing with their financing, with their solar, and more. Another tool that's very handy is CompanyCam, and it integrates with SumoQuote. So how do you bring it all together into BUMS, and how can you make it work out where things become more efficient for you? So the first thing we want to do is look at what we want to accomplish. So let's say there's a new lead of a certain stage. We're going to want to add and create a CompanyCam, and we're going to want to create a SumoQuote. Why in that order? Because SumoQuote can take the link or the ID from CompanyCam and then basically link the two. So if you want to do it in one shot, this is a clean way that we can do it. The other thing that we want to do inside of SumoQuote is we want to monitor when we send something, maybe create a warm lead nurture drip. So this is where you could start doing something where you're saying, hey, I sent you the proposal, do a voice drop saying, hey, I just sent you the proposal. Let me know if you have any questions, send a text message. And there's a whole plethora of things that you could do around here. Now we want to keep an eye out. If it's open, maybe we won't go into a hot drip. If it's open and it's not signed in X period of time, then maybe we want to do a particular drip, right? So something a little bit more, hey, just wondering if you had a chance to open it. And maybe I can give you a call if you have an opportunity, right? Something like that. Or maybe even alerting your team to go ahead and get in touch with this person. And then if it's signed, obviously moving it to the proper stage in your workflow. So that said, I want to take a look at how it works. Now, first thing that you're going to look at is Zapier. A lot of people have looked at it. SumoQuote's done a really good job of putting a lot of information. In my opinion, probably the only time I'm ever going to say is probably too much information into their Zap. So they have email if it bounces, if it's opened, if it's sent for signature, projects updated. You can get the PDF. It looks like you can do if the email was clicked, projects created, report signed, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes on and on. So very cool as far as that capability. And CompanyCam also quite a bit of features that they also have. They've done a great job as well. I think these are the two of the companies that I've seen do a better job with their Zaps. So they have checklist completed, add a photo, add a project, find, create projects, new photos, new docs, et cetera. So there's a lot that they have. So that means there's a lot of power. Some of you have also asked, do I always have to have Zapier? Is it possible to do it without it? So some things aren't. The truth is everything is, it's just a little harder. So we're going to try to do a little bit of a morph version here. And what we're going to do is we're going to get CompanyCam. We're going to create a CompanyCam every time we get a lead. We're going to go ahead and create a project whenever it's a prospect inside of SumoQuote. And then we're just going to use these three stages here. We're going to use approved, and you can use different stages as you can customize the pipeline for whatever you want. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a approved job once it's signed. And then we're going to create those drips that go with it. So I want you to follow along with me and see if this helps you bring in that integration and move forward. So to get started, I'm going to start at the very beginning, which is we're going to go into our AutoMagic here, and we're going to create a workflow. And this workflow is going to be very simple. We're going to say new lead sequence. And what we're going to do is have a trigger. And in this, what we're going to do is the pipeline is going to become where something ends up in a pipeline of the AccuLinks pipeline is what I call it in this case. But you could have several names, several things there. And the pipeline stage is going to be a lead. So when something turns into a lead, I want it to go there. So when a lead is created, updated. All right. So I've saved my trigger and I'm able to move forward with what I want to do. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go and create, as you saw over here, I'm going to create a CompanyCam project. So the nice thing is, if you notice, this workflow builder works a lot like a flowchart. It's very easy. So there's a couple different ways I can do this. And there's some ways that people have with Zapier using lead connector, which works with BUMS, using some other things. I guess I should say new lead created. We got new lead set. So that's unintentional. What we're going to do is we're going to use the power of webhooks. So we're going to send out a webhook and we're going to send it to Zapier, right? So let's go ahead and go back to Zapier and we're going to create a Zap real quick. And I'm just going to hit create here, create new Zap. And what we're going to do is start building our Zap. So what do we want to do? We want to get a webhook to catch this lead. And this lead is going to be from BUMS. And what we're going to do is we just continue and we're test. And there's nothing in here at the moment. We just want to copy this address. And we're going to go back to our webhook here, and I'm going to post it right here. So we're going to send this and we're going to say webhook to use that, right? Good thing to do here is, let's just say I'll just name this 0.1, right? Good thing to do here is copy this name and actually label your Zap. It's just a good strategy. That way you know what's going on and where it's coming from. So you have that. And one thing you can do inside, sorry, I had to just open, I apologize. As I go here is we're going to test the Zap. When a new lead comes in, it's going to send it over. And it's going to create it's not going to create the lead, but we're going to do some magic here. So I'm going to pause for a second. All right. So what we're going to do is we've saved our workflow. Let's publish it real quick. And just real quick, let me do allow reentry for the time being. I might not want to do that later, but for right now, for testing purposes, we're going to do that. We're going to go to our contacts. Actually, let's go to our pipeline. More easy. So Tony's a near prospect. Let's move him back to lead, right? So we have a lead. And what should have happened is we should be sending over a trigger to here. And there it is. There's Tony's information. This is all the data from inside of BUMS that you can do anything you want with over here. But in our case, we're going to work a little different. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a CompanyCam. So I'm going to go to CompanyCam. I find it. There's the latest one. I'm going to say, I like using Find Project in case the project already exists. Now, I will say it's not 100% accurate. And for the sake of privacy, I'm going to pause again. All right. So I paused over there for that. Sorry about that. And I'm going to search by the address, right? And if I go like this, it's asking me for some information. Search by address, search address. And I go down here and I could go find my street and all my information. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. Let me do city. Postal code. You got to make sure everything matches. And I'm not going to do the success, yes or no. What we're going to do is if we don't find it, we're just going to go ahead and create a new project. Now, if you do get duplicates in a project, just realize you can easily go ahead and recreate or merge inside of CompanyCam. They make it pretty simple. So that's a good thing. I'm going to go in here and look for the first name, space, last name for the name, street address. This is at street address 2. Street address 1 is already here. So don't worry about 2 unless you have a suite number, that kind of thing. Here, we're going to put in our state. And be careful when you're picking the state. So for example, state, the location state is where I am at. I want to pick the contact state. So make sure you pick the right one. I can pass a unique external ID. This can be useful. What I like to do is use the ID of my project. But for right now, I'm going to leave that blank for a second. And primary contact, this is you. This is a salesperson that's sending it. So I'm not going to want that. Let's remove that field that's not used. We continue, we test. And what it's going to do is go ahead and create a CompanyCam. And there it is. Boom. So that part's done. And we now have created CompanyCam. Every time a lead goes to this lead status, we're automatically creating CompanyCam. So let's go ahead and do SumoQuote. There's a couple of ways we can do this, but because we're already building this app, I feel like continuing it is probably the smarter thing. So what I'm going to do is go here and I'm going to go to SumoQuote. I got my SumoQuote. I'll go ahead and say I want to create a project and I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to choose my account. Again, I'm going to pause for a second. So I've went ahead and filled out a lot of the information, just mashed up the first name, last name, address, pretty self-explanatory, but you get down to the bottom here. You're going to see again that salesperson information if you want to enter it. I recommend not doing that there, but you can. Date created will automatically just timestamp today, so I'm not worried about that. CompanyCam project ID. This is what I want to link in order to make them already merged. So here's the ID. Very simple to grab, no problem. Also another ID I use, just so you know, I used an ID here, my project ID, to pass it through to SumoQuote. You don't have to do that. I'm passing through the ID that it is inside of BUMS, just because it makes future automations a little bit better, but it's not necessary. Now, if I test this step, I'm going to go through and we're going to have Tony Stark and it's going to go ahead and create it. and it's went ahead and done that. And it looks like it was successful, but let's go ahead and check it. We'll go over to SumoQuote real quick. I have one open here, and I'm going to go to my projects, and I can see my project is over here and created. Actually, if I refresh that project, I'm going to see this is my project. And this project is now linked to my CompanyCam and to my SumoQuote. So both of those are done. Now, why is that important? Why do you want to do that? And what we want to do is go ahead and next, we're going to go back and we're going to put some information back into BUMS. So we're going to send some information that we have here so we can have it all talk to each other. Right now we went from BUMS to CompanyCam to SumoQuote, which SumoQuote linked to CompanyCam. So we got a relationship here, but how do we make BUMS relate to both of them? And that's what I'm going to show you next. So before we do that, let's take a look at our test information that we got back, right? So what is available to us? So we have name, address, phone number. We already had that from BUMS. It went down, not up, so it's okay. We have some specifics here. We have an ID that could be useful perhaps. That ID, if you notice, it's also in the project URL. This is a URL that you would use. And then we have a public ID. The public ID is one that you could share. So I could see a lot of advantages with that. Maybe we could send somebody and say, oh, here's the pictures for your project, right? So neat. So I like that public URL, and everything else is okay here. So there's that. So there's that I could send from there. From SumoQuote, let's take a look what we're able to send. And let me move this screen up, sorry. And again, we have the ID, the account ID, the ID for the deal. We have our basic information that we pass down. We have our salesperson that is automatically tagged. And there's not a lot of other information at the moment. There's just that's it. Now you can see here, there's an AccuLinks ID, dynamic project ID, RoofLink ID, hover ID. These could be used, and this would require you to use something a little bit more complex. I have a solution built for that. We can walk through that another day, but for right now, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to continue. So the only thing that I could see that I would probably want to use is inside of Tony Stark here. What if I could put in my CompanyCam links, and what if I can put in my information for the public link and the private link? So how would I do that? Where do I put them? Maybe description, maybe here, maybe there, but no, there's a better way. I can go in settings, go in custom fields, and I could say I'm going to add 2 fields, and I'm going to call one of them. So you pick single line, as you can see here, and I hit next. Sorry, sometimes even I forget. CompanyCam, and I'm going to say internal, just for the sake, and I could put this under folders and create more folders, by the way. So for right now, I'm just going to drop it into additional info. I'm going to save that one. I'm going to add another field, same thing, and I'm going to go next. And if you notice, they don't have a link field inside of HighLevel or BUMS because of the way it's designed. That's the native thing from HighLevel. However, you'll see later where BUMS lets you turn this into a link, which is cool. So I'm going to drop this in, and we're going to do a CompanyCam public ID, and boom, we have our 2 IDs created. We're going to go back to our webhook here, and we're going to create a return. And for the sake of making this simple, I'll just use the lead connector. It does this fairly well. I don't know if there's really a reason not to. And again, for privacy, I'm going to, in a second, pause to go ahead and change one thing. All right, I've put in my ID or my location, and now I need to fill this information out. But since the information came down, I don't need to pass a lot back up. I need something to identify it. So I'm definitely going to try to use the phone number. I'm going to probably try to use the email just to make sure that I have that information correct. It's best to use these from this catch hook. What I mean by that is, see how you can get information from these? Use it from the original catch hook. It's just going to work a lot cleaner and better. And everything else is done here, right? And what I want to do is always select true or false here. I like to use true because it is a lead. And here's our 2 fields that we had created. If I go into CompanyCam, I'm just going to match those 2 fields. So I have my internal ID or URL, I'm sorry, and I have my external URL. So the last thing we'll add is the public URL, which if you go down here, it's right available. There you go. And those are in there. Now, another thing I want to do here, because I want to use something that I'm going to teach you about later, but I want to add a tag here. So what we're going to do is add a tag of sync. That way we know that everything's been synced, right? So remember, tags are super powerful. You can do quite a bit. You can actually put multiple tags here by using commas, but I'm going to just use sync. We're going to continue and we're going to test this step, and it's going to shoot this information out under Tony Stark, right? And if I go into my BUMS, I go here and I will go to my contact. Actually, I'm in Tony. It looks like, oh, no, not anymore. So sorry about that. I got a little lost there. So I go here to contact. I'm going to hide the empty fields real quick. And I know it's under additional, so I'm going to open up additional here. So you see here, I have my link. So if I was logged in, this would take me to my CompanyCam. So if I go here, well, looks like I'm not logged in. Let's go and log in real quick. It's going to take me to my CompanyCam, right? So then had no photos. For argument's sake, we drop some photos in here. There we go. We've dropped some photos in there. And what we're going to do, what's cool about this, now imagine you could send this link in different ways, but this link here, you can actually open it as tab, and this is your public URL, right? Which is very cool. So you're able to see your public URL. And this feature right here, this open link, is only available inside of BUMS. Unfortunately, HighLevel is just going to give you the text and you can click it. You're going to have to copy paste it, but it's not that inconvenient. You can use it to send inside of emails, texts, etc. So a lot of what I'm telling you can do with the standard HighLevel, but some little things you won't be able to do. And that would help you create the project. So we've created the project. We've got it all synced. We have a SumoQuote project. We have a CompanyCam file linked. So if we go to SumoQuote, for example, I'm sorry, where do I have that open? I have that over here. If I go to my SumoQuote and I do a create a new project, I'm going to be able to see my CompanyCam photos inside of here. This was linked to a different CompanyCam, but you will be able to see it. So that's that part. And the account's been created. We have our information in there. It's already been filled out. There's some other information that you could fill out natively and go ahead and build your quote. We can then go ahead and publish this one, and it's actually live now. So that's going to be live, and that's going to continue doing its part. Now, the other situation here is we want to look at some of those other features that were offered inside of Zapier that we can do. For example, with SumoQuote, you're able to see every time you send the email, see every time they click it, every time once it's been sent, if it's been signed, things like that. To me, the most important ones are sent, opened, and signed, right? But we're going to do this a little different. We're going to try to leverage the power of BUMS and skip Zapier to save the expense of Zapier, as well as the complexity of having 2-3 things involved. And you might want to do this different. I can't tell you, everyone's a little different, but I will go ahead and do it my way here. I'm going to go back inside BUMS. I've created this. Now I want to put this Tony guy, every time it's sent, I would perhaps have a pipeline here where he's now a prospect. And when we move to prospect, perhaps I want to send, or perhaps I want to see that was the proposal sent? Has he opened it? Has he reviewed it? And you could make an entire pipeline for this. A SumoQuote pipeline is very simple to do. You can just go to pipeline settings and make a SumoQuote pipeline if you want to, and call it, for example, I would just say sent, opened, and signed, right? That's one way to do it. And that's not a bad way. It's very doable. And if you go to your pipelines, you'll see those stages here. So if I change here, SumoQuote stages, or I could do it a little different using tags. And I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video.